everybody. My name is Belinda, and welcome to this webinar on free-range chicken production, commonly known as roadrunners. So the business of roadrunner production. So my name is Belinda Chaora. I am with Civio Institute, and Civio Institute is a technical partner for agribusiness media for the production of some of the webinars that you have been watching. So as I said, if you are here to listen to roadrunner production, you're in the right place. And so how this webinar is going to unfold is that there's going to be a series of presentations done by a number of speakers. And then at the end of that presentation, at the end of those presentations, we're going to have time for questions and answers. So the best way, if you have a question that you want answered, please post it into the chat area of the Zoom chat function. You can also post your email address, and then you will have access to the presentations that have been conducted today, or that are going to be conducted today. So like I said, I'm with Civio Institute. We are, amongst other things, we host a Center for Entrepreneurship and Financial Inclusion. And there we train in entrepreneurship. We provide information for people who are starting small enterprises. If you want to know more about us, I'll post a link to our organization. But like I said, this webinar is being hosted by Agribusiness Media, which is a digital platform for farmers. So anything to do with farming, Agribusiness Media will have your back, literally. They will be able to cover you on all the information that you need and give you all the resources that you need. And those resources are coming to you for free. As a farmer, you don't pay anything to access those resources. The whole point of Agribusiness Media is to provide agricultural information on agricultural production and make that available on digital platforms. So Agribusiness Media is a holding company for Agribusiness Magazine, which is reaching over 300,000 farmers every single month. Agribusiness Talk, which is the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram channels that you can access online. And there's over 1 million people that access that every single month. So you can join that crowd as well. Agribusiness Media is hosting these webinars. And so once again, that information is free for you if you want to access it. So I'm going to introduce a number of people to just ask them to tell us more about themselves, the companies that they represent, and they are going to be the ones that are going to be doing the presentations today. So I'll start with Agribusiness Media, represented by Rollins Coffee. So Rollins, if you could just tell us more about yourself and just give us an overview of what Agribusiness Media is about. And then hoping Tamari Mhlanga, who is with POSB, if she's on the call, Tamari will introduce herself. She's going to be talking about financing opportunities. And then Nomo Nema is going to be talking about the factors to consider when buying day-old chicks, representing the Zimbabwe Free-Range Poultry Breeders and Growers Association. And then Garikai Marutsi, who is a veterinarian, and Dr. Magonziwa, who is also a veterinarian, and then My Divine, who is a farmer who is experienced success with growing or the business of free-range poultry production. So if you could introduce yourselves very quickly, and then we can move on to the actual presentations. Rollins, we'll start with you.
Well, thanks, Belinda. My name is Rollins, and I'm with Agribusiness Media. And Agribusiness Media is a multimedia farmers forum that uses or utilizes digital platforms to disseminate farm business information that we believe will assist in the migration from subsistence to commercial farming. So we have a number of initiatives and products and services that are of interest to you farmers. We have a monthly magazine, as Belinda had said. It's a digital magazine available on the website and also distributed via our social media platforms. It reaches out to over 300,000 farmers monthly, and it's very interactive. And we also have an annual directory, which is meant to link you farmers with agro input and service providers. So it is also interactive, and I'll share a page just to so you can appreciate the directory. So it has a number of categories that can direct you to different service providers, the government, and also the private players in the agricultural sector. It also has a search function where if you are looking for a certain product or service, you just type in, then the results will come up, and you just click, and within just a click, you are directed to the right organization that you'll be looking for. Then we also have our digital media platforms. That's our Facebook on social media. We have a Facebook page. It's Agribusiness Media. I think now it's over 65,000 followers. And if you are not following us, please join the wagon and benefit from the free information that we post. And we are also on Twitter, so we'll share in the chat the links to our social media platforms. So, and also what may interest you is that Agribusiness Media won the most innovative business award from the International Labour Organization. So I think in brief, that's who we are as Agribusiness Media. And this webinar is produced or being broadcasted under Agribusiness TV, which is also part of the Agribusiness Media. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Rollins. Can we ask for Tamari Mhlanga to introduce herself, please?
Thank you so much, Belinda. Thank you, Agribusiness TV, AgriTalk Rollins, for inviting me to this webinar. So as Belinda said, my name is Tamari Mhlanga. I am an agribusiness analyst with the People's Own Savings Bank. The People's Own Savings Bank has a dedicated agribusiness department amongst several other services that we do offer that most of Zimbabwe is well aware of. We've been around for a very long time, but maybe what our fellow farmers here and those who are not here for this webinar may not be aware of is that we have a fully fledged agribusiness department, our head, which is housed at the head office, corner 3rd and Central, Causeway Building, offering a variety, a cocktail of products that include working capital, finance, overdrafts, and the like. So I'll discuss more. Our mandate is mostly about financial inclusion, and as such, I'll discuss more on the funding opportunities that we as POSB offer and other sources of finance that our farmers can tap into. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you very much, Tamari. Nomo Nema, please, may you introduce yourself?
Good morning. How are you, everyone? Good morning, Belinda. Sorry, I'm on the road today, but however, I have to take it. You know, as a farmer, you should be prepared anytime.
Yes.
My name is Nomo Nema. I'm the founder and owner of an indigenous poultry company called Nema Chickens and the Hatcheries. We had number 4 Plymouth Road, Southampton in Harare. Actually, I'm also the president of Zimbabwe Free Range Producers and Poultry Producers and Growers Association. which is merely an association which is there to advance the interests of farmers in terms of providing market as well as market linkages. So basically, we are into production of free range chickens. Mainly, we've got different breeds from Boichveld, Black Astrolop, White Plymouth, White Sussex, Buff Orpington. We have got Brahma. We have got Jess Giant. In fact, I would say we have got 11 breeds in our stock. So basically, with free range, I'll be discussing about measures to look at when you are purchasing day-old chicks as well as the gross margins. That's it for now. Thank you.
Okay. All right. That's fine. Thank you very much. No more. Can we have Garikai Maruti?
Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, Zimbabwe. My name is Garikai Maruti. I'm the Profit Company veterinarian. So with Profit, it's predominantly a feed producing company. Of course, it has diversified now. We now have a whole range of products that can support the farmer, which may include agricultural chemicals, implements, equipment, poultry equipment, also medications. And we also produce feed for both domestic and also wild animals. So I'll be presenting on the part of nutrition. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is Dr. Magonziwa on the call yet? Dr. Magonziwa? If not, I will ask my divine to introduce herself. My divine, has my divine joined the call yet? Okay, maybe not. Maybe they will be able to join us later. That's fine. So what we can do is those who haven't been able to join the call yet, sometimes our presenters will also be struggling with network issues. So when the time for their presentation comes, if they are on the call, they'll just introduce themselves at that time. So I would like us to start our presentations now. We will start with Tamari Mhlanga, who's going to be talking about financing opportunities. And just as she said, she works for the People's Own Savings Bank, POSB, and she's an agribusiness analyst. So Tamari, please go for it. And to the host, Agribusiness Media, please ensure that Tamari has the ability to share her screen. So Tamari, if you have any presentations, you can just check if that has been enabled. But feel free to start your presentation whilst you are sharing your screen so that we don't waste time.
All right, thank you, Belinda. So first and foremost, I would like to just allude to the fact that research does indicate that there's a direct relationship between funding and productivity. As such, there's need for funding opportunities to be more available. And I think this is mostly a problem to our small-scale farmers. Access to funding is a big problem to our small-scale funding, yet access to funding unlocks value. The various forms of funding that are available in Zimbabwe at the moment include contract farming, which in about 2019 contributed 24% of total funding, bank loans, which contributed just 9% to the total forms of funding, and then the self-funding, which is our equity, which only contributed just about 24%. And then we have the presidential input schemes for the cropping side, the donor funding, and other forms of funding, such as our public-private partnerships. So now what I would draw more on is the eligibility criteria that is used by financial institutions, given that I'm coming from the banking sector. Farmers feel that accessing funding, especially from the banking institutions, is near impossible. And I think that has been the case, especially in Zimbabwe. And I think the biggest hindrance to this is maybe the issues to do with collateral, the issues to do with record keeping, and some other issues that I'll allude to. So I just want to place emphasis on the importance of a prior relationship with the institution, for example, the banking institution, whereby a farmer expects that when they need funding and their funding gaps, or when they need to expand their operation, they just walk into a banking institution and seek funding and they access it. This is not possible. So it's important for one to establish a prior relationship with the institution. How does one do this? One may, for example, open a bank account. I understand that most of our farmers still use cash sales. They sell their produce for cash or using EcoCash, but it is still possible to establish a banking relationship by opening an account, whereby if they still POS machine, EcoCash, there's still the use of POS machines, and then you can also just have a relationship with your banking institution by just going to the banking institution, inquiring and making sure that you're in their radar, you're in their database. So this is very important, so that when you have a working capital gap or you have a project that you need to fund, when then you go to that institution, they are aware of your existence. And then there's also the need for a banking proposal. Banking institutions always insist on a proposal. This is so that you can share your vision in some way with the banking institution. They want a proposal so that you're able to show them your plan, to show that you have a plan. It is always said that when you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. How to come up with the banker proposal? I have prepared a draft proposal that I will share with Agribusiness Talk so that they may broadcast to our farmers with the basic tenets of a bankable proposal. And then you also need to have your budgets at hand and your cash flows. These budgets and cash flows are not only important for you to access finance, they're also important for your own information to show that the project that you're going into, for example, your roadrunner project, it will show you a clear picture of whether or not this is a profit-making venture or a loss-making venture. This is very important because many times farmers go into a project not knowing whether or not they'll make a profit and thinking maybe that they are making a profit, when in actual fact they're actually digging into their personal revenues and the business itself is not profitable at all. So this is why you have to come up with your gross margin budgets to show the expected gross margins that you will get from your after lessing your costs from your revenues. And then your cash flows will actually show the actual inflows and outflows that will be in your business, and this will also show you whether or not this business is profitable. This is also very important if you have to run your roadrunner projects as a business, and this is also very an important eligibility criteria for banks to see whether or not this is a viable project that is worth pursuing. And then there's also the issue of traceable records, record keeping. This is, we've noticed, this is a big weakness with our farmers, whereby they come into the bank, they are looking for funding, then you ask for historical records, which is the only way you can ascertain the viability of this project. You can also ascertain whether or not this farmer affords this facility or not. So you just need to be keeping basic records. For example, if you have sold so many roadrunners during the past week, then you record that carefully. And then when you're producing, you also record the amount used on inputs. You just record those simple recordings that you make will come in handy when it is time for you to walk into a formal financial institution and you intend to seek funding. Those records will serve you well. They'll give the banker a picture of where you're coming from, and they'll also give them a picture of your vision of where you would want to go. You can even, for those roadrunner producers who are able. You may also invest in a bookkeeper. You may find just a basic bookkeeper, someone who has basic knowledge of accounting, to compute for you a basic record of your revenues, of your expenses, and of your profit or loss. This will also help you so much when it is time for you to go into a financial institution and access funding, because definitely financial institutions insist on record keeping. So I would like to emphasize this point of farmers having to keep their records. These records will also help the farmers to see the trend of their production, to see whether they're improving in their performance, which is very important for them to see the areas where they need to improve. Maybe their expenses are skewed towards wages, then they can then check to see how they can streamline their operations in order to reduce some of the necessary costs that they might be incurring. There's also basic software for farmers. I think there are apps that have been introduced that also help farmers to compute their basic financial record. And this is a very important issue when it comes to access to finance. And then there's the issue, I think, a big hindrance to access to finance that we've always been crying about as small-scale farmers is the issue of collateral, whereby banking institutions especially are not willing to give finance without some form of security. And I think the most accepted form of security is an immovable property for obvious reasons, whereby accepting movable property has issues in terms of, for example, if you accept cattle, these are movable. They can be at one farm today and at the next farm tomorrow, and so many other problems that result in banking institutions not accepting movable collateral. So on this issue of collateral, I'm just going to offer alternatives to our roadrunner producers here that they can consider that are actually acceptable. So what's important, first and foremost, I'll just reiterate, is the issue of the prior relationship. So where you have a prior relationship and your proceeds, or some of your proceeds as much as you can, are coming through the bank, then the issue of collateral sometimes ceases to be such a major issue because there's that confidence. So there's the issue of offtake agreements with reputable institutions. For example, I think National Foods had some contract farming scheme whereby they're offering farmers certain services, technical services, inputs, working capital, and the like. So in that case, where you have an offtake agreement that is confirmed, because sometimes the problem is that a farmer has their roadrunners ready, but now they do not have a market and they've borrowed from a bank. So that becomes a problem because the source of repayment has been compromised and there is the risk of default. And so what an offtake agreement does is that it ring fences those proceeds, one, and eliminates that fear of default which the banks have, which is really a serious risk. So you use that offtake agreement. In that offtake agreement, there will be a clause specifying that the proceeds from the sale of a certain product of your roadrunners in this instance will go to the POSB account, for example. And as such, the issue of default ceases to become an issue because this offtake agreement has been signed, the company is reputable, and there's ring fencing that has taken place, and as such, this can be used as collateral, and banks are using this as collateral. And then this also goes for contracts. It's about the same concept as an offtake agreement. You can also agree with your bank to use your contract as your collateral, and this goes back to the same issue of a prior relationship with the institution, whereby the institution knows you, they have you in their database. And as such, the use of such innovative ways of collateral is highly acceptable. And then another key aspect that I would like to allude to is the importance of being part of an association. I heard Mr. Nema mentioning the fact that he is the president of an association for Zimbabwean roadrunner producers. So it is very important to be part of such an organization. Why? Because this organization has you as the farmer in their database. They have their details. They know their farmers, and as such, sometimes banking institutions prefer to deal with such associations. And as such, when you're part of such an association, when an association approaches the bank, they are more likely to access this funding that will then be on lent to the respective members. And so I encourage our roadrunner farmers to be affiliated to these reputable associations so that their chances of accessing finance may also be enhanced. And then I'd just like to talk about the various types of funding that are available to our farmers. We have equity. Equity is basically your own contribution, your own capital. It's basically when you start up your business, and that's the other factor that I would like to allude to say, normally no investor is willing to invest in a greenfield. What do I mean by this? What I mean is that what is advisable, what I strongly advise is that a farmer starts with what they have, with what little they have. What this does is that it inspires confidence in the financial institution to say, this farmer has their own contribution, therefore they have a stake in this business. And as such, that is why farmers are always crying foul to say, I've gone to the bank, I want to start my project, but I cannot access financing. So I would encourage farmers to even start with even 10 birds, for example. Then you start with 10 birds and you nurture your 10 birds. And then when you now want to expand that project, then you approach, you go on to the second type of funding that I'll allude to, which is debt financing, which is mostly from your banks, from your microfinance institutions. So debt, the key tenets of debt funding that are explored by financial institutions is the repayment source. Now, this is very important, which is why I was alluding to your offtake agreements is very important. These make or break your credit applications. When there's a clear repayment source that is viable, that is traceable, then your chances of accessing debt are highly enhanced. But when the repayment source is wishy-washy, when it is unclear, and you're not sure yourself whether this will succeed or not, the market is not there, they're just hazy plans that are unclear, then your chances as a roadrunner farmer of accessing funding is very slim, if any at all. So the repayment source is very important. You need to clearly outline this when you're making your application for funding. Then there's the issue of security. That is another key tenet of debt funding, which I've already alluded to. I've already offered our roadrunner farmers alternatives that they can go, that they can propose to their bankers. Yes, I've already alluded to those. Obviously, I'll share my presentation with the rest of the attendees after this. Then I've already alluded to the issue of trust or relationship as well, which is also a key tenet of debt funding. Then I would want to emphasize strongly on the need to only borrow for growth for your business. What I mean is that some people borrow for the business and then they divert that funding for other uses, even consumption. One needs to clearly know their growth plans to say, I want to increase my road runners from 100 to 200. So I need to borrow for this growth. I need to fund the working capital associated with this growth. So only borrow for growth. So I subscribe to a golden entrepreneurial rule, which says until you know value, everything is worthless. So who knew that roadrunner projects could result in increased incomes for our households? But now we know the value. So we know that this is a valuable project. This is a viable project. Even as funding partners, we are well aware of this, but you need to have these weapons that I have just shared with you as farmers. When you go to when you approach your bankers for funding. And then I think this is all I have, Belinda. Thank you very much. I'm on standby for questions.
Thank you very much, Tamari, for that presentation. So just as she said, she's available for questions. So if you have questions for her, please may you start to post them into the chat function on in the Zoom area chat area, and then she'll be able to answer them just before we close our presentation today. Also, if you can post your contact details, if you're comfortable to do that, either email address or phone number, how people can get in touch with you directly. And then next, we're going to have Mr. Nomo Nema of Nema Chickens and Hatcheries, and who's also the president of the Free Range Breeders Association. So, Mr. Nema, if you can share with us your presentation.
Thank you so much, Belinda. Like I've said, I'm driving, but however, I'm going to do justice to my presentation today. Actually, my piece of presentation is on the factors to consider when buying chicks, specifically roadrunner chicks. And also, I'm going to talk on the gross margins. So I've been allocated 15 minutes, which means it's 10:33. I should be out by 10:48. So on factors to consider when buying roadrunners chickens, farmers really need to be careful on the type of chicks which they buy. Like, I just want to clarify certain points, especially what is happening in the market right now. We have seen a lot of new startup farmers being duped or being sold reject chicks. Some of them they are reject broiler chicks, and some are reject airline chicks. They are being sold maybe either as broilers or light Sussex and stuff. So now we are going to talk of factors to consider when buying day-old chicks. One factor to consider, which is critical, is the supplier, right? Supplier is one factor which is very critical whenever you are buying your indigenous chickens. We need to look for registered suppliers. For example, here in Zimbabwe, if you go to Ministry for Agriculture through our Department of Livestock, we have got registered breeders already in the indigenous sectors. One of them is Nema Chickens and the Hatcheries. It's registered. Even if you come to our hatcheries, there's a certificate of registration. So this is number one key point. Why I say the registered breeder. Registered breeder, you've got a certain patent of chicks, for example. For black antelope breed, we know definitely that black antelope its origin is from Australia. So normally, some suppliers are just selling black chicks as black antelope. You really need to know the pattern of that breed, for example, in terms of its genetic disposition, its characteristics, and also its features. For example, the red toe comb, as well as the 5 nodules as a black antelope, also the black eyes, as well as the black toes and the black beak. So normally you don't just rush to buy chicks from the street. Don't buy chicks from the street. I've seen actually a lot of farmers being duped in town, for example, along 2nd Street and Kenneth Kaunda, and also just around O Street and 2nd Street. So it's important that you buy from reputable suppliers. We have got suppliers like Novatech. They sell good breed, like the indigenous chickens are Bushveld breed. Then we also have got National Organic Produce. We have got other farmers who are reputable, though not registered, but I will just name a few. We have Omash Poultry. We have Chagnos breeds. We also have got My Divine, Passion Poultry. They've got very good breeds, right from Croilers as well as Black Astrolop. So that one supplier is one important key component which you have to look whenever you are selling or buying your roadrunner breed. Then the second point on factors to consider when buying day-old chicks is the breeding stock, right? Breeding stock is what is important. We have got different types of breeds. We have got what we call the pure breeds. Pure breeds, these are native or heritage breeds. Like our Black Astrolop is a pure breed. We are talking of Jess Giant. We are talking of Light Sussex. We are talking of our Buffalo Pinton. We are talking of Cochin and stuff. Then also we've got what we call the bi-breeds. These are crossed breeds which are actually produced specifically for certain characteristics. For example, egg lay, like our Lowman Brown, Yearline Brown. Then we've got our Croiler, which is specifically for meat production or as well as egg production. This is a dual purpose breed. Then we've got our mixed breed. These are mixed breed, what we call Msanganiswa ndo vazhinji vakujuta I've got Croiler, yet these are mixed breed. So on the breeding stock, it's important that a farmer, before you buy chicks, you really need to visit actually and see the breeding stock. For example, if you want to buy Croiler or White Plymouth or Black Astrolop, you really need to visit the breeder and see the breeding stock for yourself before you buy the chicks. Because normally, what is important with roadrunners, just like one is buying a dog, you would need to see the parent. So this is what we call the parent stock. So it's important that you visit the farm, you get to know and appreciate the farm, and also you get to appreciate the breed. Besides the farm, you also need to go to the farmers registered also on the breeding system, the stock from. For example, on the breeding stock, right now in Zimbabwe, I've seen there's a trend where Black Astrolop is now topical. A lot of farmers, they prefer Black Astrolop because of its egg production, as well as size in terms of meat production, as well as Croiler in terms of also the size, and also it's a dual purpose in terms of egg production and meat production. So it's important that you get to understand and know the breed which you are buying. For example, with the Croiler, you would see that it has got it's a mix of Road Red Island, then also red broiler, white leghorn, as well as kukuku. So the features for the Croiler, it comes with a many variety of colors, for example, in black, red, white, and mixed. But how you identify this is in terms of its genetic composition, in terms of size. For example, a Croiler matures at 8 weeks, between 8 weeks and 12 weeks in terms of meat production to maturity period for that particular breed. Then also another factor to consider, the issue of nation record, right? As a farmer, whether you visit the supplier, you need to at least know and get to understand in terms of the vaccination record for the parent stock. For example, the day-old chicks which you are buying from the breed, is it vaccinated against Newcastle? One, is it vaccinated against foulpox? Is it vaccinated against IB or Gumburo? Is it vaccinated against Coryza? I need to warn farmers because with the rate of production of indigenous chickens right now, a lot of disease or viruses have erupted, have emerged in the country. So it's important that whenever you're buying your stock, you need to at least demand from the supplier to see their vaccination record. How do you see the vaccination record? You need to have records, for example, receipts where they buy their vaccines. For example, Newcastle, we have got suppliers of vaccines, for example, vet distributors, 5 vet, Nema chickens and HRIs, we also sell vaccines. So whenever we are selling vaccines, we give a receipt to a farmer. So a farmer should be able to keep proper records. In the event that a customer wants to buy chicks from that farmer, you need to produce that as a record. Because the most killer for poultry, especially in the next sector, are these viruses. For example, Newcastle, fowlpox and coryza. They are very deadly. And also our gumburo, which we call IBD, is very deadly because once it actually attacks your poultry, normally from day old to 6 weeks, it kills what the oviduct, which normally has got an effect on egg laying. You would see by the time when you buy your day old chicks, by the time they reach a point of lay, percent or 50%, really an indication that your chicks has been affected by gumboro, besides the issue of the feeding program. So I want to urge farmers that you really need to demand to see the vaccination records for those particular chicks whenever you are buying them. Then another point on the aspect of the vaccination records, you also need to find out whether these chicks which you are buying, for example, day old, are they vaccinated? For example, on HRS, they have to vaccinate your chicks against Marex and Newcastle at day 1. So whenever you are buying your chicks, they need to be vaccinated. So farmers, whenever you are buying your chicks, let's not look at the price. I have seen a lot of farmers wanting to look at the issue of price. For example, original day-old chicks for light Sussex, Brahma and Buffalo Orpington, they are going for $4 each, which is a day-old. So a lot of farmers, they think that they are very expensive. Yeah, when you know the international market for these day-old chicks is around $6 to $10 each. So whenever you're buying your chicks, you also need to look at the issue of the price. Price has got a determining factor. You would see some of the players, for example, conmen who are in town along 2nd Street, they are selling light Sussex, fake light Sussex breeds at 60 cents or some for $1. So you need to question those attributes. Besides visiting the farm, even when you are looking at also on the price. For example, a black solopo chick right now is costing between $1, $1.50 up to $2. So you need to be very worried if someone is selling a day old for 50 cents. Then also, besides the issue of the price, you also need to consider also the issue of market. Whenever you want to venture into business, it's important when you want to start a business, when you want to buy day-old chicks for indigenous sector, you need to look at the market. When I'm talking of market, you need to look at the breed which is in demand. For example, right now, a lot of farmers, they are going towards the dual purpose breeds. When I'm talking of dual purpose breeds, I'm talking of those breeds which have got capacity to lay more eggs, at the same time also has got capacity to mature fast for meat production. These dual purpose breeds include the Saso from Amara. Also, we've got players who are supplying this, for example, Nema chickens and other players. When you are talking of dual purpose breeds, we are looking at breeds which have got capacity to give you eggs as well as meat production. Then also another example of dual purpose breed is black Solop and also broiler. So these ones you need to be very careful whenever you are buying chicks, to say in terms of market, which breed is in demand at the moment. For example, a lot of people are now shying away from Bushveld and going towards black Solop and broiler. So you need to understand your market. Like I'm giving you a hint right now, dual purpose breeds are now in demand. For example, there's demand for black Solop and Saso as broiler. For example, I would give you Saso matures at 8 weeks. Whenever you are feeding it, actually with the broiler feed from day old to 8 weeks, and 8 weeks it can hit up to 3.2 kgs. So it's quite in demand, and normally also on the aspect of market is going for $8. Then I'm going to talk of gross margin just in 2 minutes. So for example, if you've got your black castle, say if you buy your 100 chicks, normally what you need to ensure is on brooding, ensure that you have got your liquid paraffin as well as your charcoal. You won't lose your beds through mortality. So the gross margin, if you say normally in terms of the cock to hen ratio, black castle out of 100 beds, you normally get your up to between 10 and 13 cocks. So which means you'll be left with at least say 80. When you've considered a mortality of 2% of 80 beds, which is your laying hens, and normally black castle is laying rate is around between 85 and 90%. So I've calculated that whenever you're breeding day-old chicks, both this is in demand. You sell the day-old chicks are actually for $1. So in a week, which is 7 days, you are able to pick about 511 eggs. If you hatch this, you get around 430 chicks at 85%. So your gross margin per week is around $387. Then if you now calculate per month, when you've affected issues of feed, for example, per week is 387. Then if you multiply by a month, because normally you have to hatch every 7 days or just 5 days, right? So if you normally in a month you would hatch 4 times. So if you multiply 387 times 4, it gives you around $1,300. So it's quite a very good margin when you are talking of breeding of day-old chicks. Then also you've got various business model with the indigenous sector. You can breed them for fertile eggs, which are $. For example, for Bushveld, it's $5. Then with black castle, you can sell them at $10 per crate. So this has got much more value than your line or Loman, because with the fertile eggs, they are quite in demand. Then you can also breed for point of lay. Some the market, for example, NGOs that are looking for point of lay. Currently, we have got Adris, which is looking at 10,000 point of lay. So the market, there's a ready market, but there are no producers. So you can breed for day-old chicks, you can breed for fertile eggs, you can breed for point of lay, you can also breed for breeding stock. So these are the factors which you have to consider. Because of the time, I'm going to end up here. If there are questions, I'm available to answer questions. Thank you. That's my presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mr. Nema. It was a very informative presentation. I'm sure there'll be lots of questions. Also, if you can post your phone number or just want to say out your phone number or contact details, so that if people have any questions that can't be answered here, they can get in touch with you and your company.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, so we're going to move on next to our next presenter, Mr. Garikai Maruti, who is a veterinarian with Profeeds. Mr. Maruti, you can go for it. Or should I say Dr. Maruti? You can go for it.
All right, thank you very much, Rawlings, for uploading the presentation. I think we can progress from here. As I alluded to earlier on, we are Profeeds, we are a feed company predominantly, but we have everything that supports the farmer from start to end of a production cycle. So my presentation today is basically on nutrition. So that's my main focus that I'll be focusing on. So you can press the next. Well, right, so I was saying I'm going to present on the part on nutrition in the business of roadrunner, discussion today, roadrunner production. So please go to the next slide, Rawlings. Right. So basically, for us to really appreciate anything to do with nutrition, we really need to understand where we stand as a community, as a farming community. So the basics are we need to really understand what an indigenous bird is. So indigenous birds, these are birds that we keep at our backyards, birds that have been kept from old days by our forefathers. And basically, at the moment, we have a number of these indigenous birds, and they come with names, and these are the birds that have now genetic identity. And there are so many that we still have at the moment that do not carry a genetic identity. So as farmers, we need also to acknowledge this particular background so that we really understand why, as farmers, we really need to know a genetic identity which we can also harness. When I'm talking of a genetic identity, just to bring closer the issue, we need to really understand that we may have names such as the naked neck chickens, the bushvelds, the vendors. These are some of the indigenous chickens that now may carry a genetic identity. So the best thing with these breeds at the particular moment is you also have their performance measures, and sometimes you can try to relate. So many of the birds, as I alluded to earlier on, they are indigenous birds, yes, and we're happy, we love them, but they lack that profiling in terms of the performance of the birds. So we need to know and understand this before we engage into our businesses, because if we don't, then by the end of the day, we'll end up being asked questions that may be very difficult to answer. So by these indigenous birds, the way we have been rearing them was having them on free range. They were food scavengers. They would take on our table leftovers and also search for insects, worms, and other forage for other green vegetation from the field. So these are the road runners for you. And for some reason, as time went on, as we progressed, we have discovered that there is now a demand for the road runner, or rather, the demand is still rising. So by the rise in the demand of this road runner, what's now happening is there will be, or there is already, production pressure on the bed. So basically, we are now having the farmers, as we had Mr. Nema alluding to earlier on, we now have certain organizations even demanding very high numbers, and this pushes the farmer to start thinking of upping their numbers in terms of number of beds they may be having, road runner beds they may be having on their places. But then this means by increasing number of beds, it's going to increase the pressure and stress on the beds. By the end of the day, it also increases pressure on the land. And again, it returns to bite on the farmer again. All these demands, they also weigh on the farmer. So a number of birds, they also need food. So the question remains, where will this farmer get the feed from? So there is rise in pressure, and not to forget that many people also, they are now going organic. Besides some of us who are just road runner meat lovers, people are going organic. They are now health conscious, and road runner meat or road runner products, they are now seem to be the way to go. So all these factors, if we continue counting on them, we end up understanding, getting to know that we have a lot of production pressure, not only on the farmers, not only on the farms, and not only on the birds themselves. Another issue that is now of great concern because of the rise in the human population in towns, cities, rural areas, and everywhere is the space of physical limitation. It seems you and me, and even the next 3 or more people, even after this presentation, they get into road runner farming. So it means we are in it together, and it presents a good and a bad situation where we have a lot of consequences for all these actions that we're going to take. So we have a lot of challenges, a lot of problems which would need a solution. So let's get to the next slide rolling. So if I'm going to pull from a wild card and they say, well, fine, if we're going to look at this situation and scenario, as I alluded to earlier, there are many problems and there's need for a solution. From my opinion, and as a Profit family, the only solution to some of these problems can be nutrition. I'll try to help you understand why I'm alluding to nutrition as the next best solution for all these myriad of problems that we will be facing. Put on the next slide. So why nutrition? Why nutrition? That's the next question that one may ask us. Look at it this way. If you are going to check in terms of raising these roadrunner beds, you are going to discover that over 70%, if not more, of our production costs, they are hinged on nutrition. It's only to do with food. So it may sound out of line or silly, especially if you do not have records, but the moment you sit down, have records, and try to record where the greatest production costs come from, they always go around anything to do with nutrition. So nutrition is the greatest challenge that any roadrunner farmer is going to face. So imagine if you have better control of nutrition, if you have better control over your production costs, which are being caused by nutrition, then it means you're in a position to control your production cycles, control your market, and also control the prices that you're going to charge for the market products that you having by the end of the day. So with nutrition, basically, you find that it will help us focus on target market requirements. So you have people, they come with different tastes. So you will find that there are some people who mostly focus on road runners, and they would love a wholly organic bed, which has been feeding on grains, worms, insects only. But then, let's face it, reality is here, is dawning upon us, and we know and really understand that we will never get at the moment, especially if you are doing road runners within cities and towns. I mean, you don't have the space. So you will be forced somehow to say it's either you are going to be supplementing on the worms, insects, and veg forage side, or you supplement on the other side with commercial feed. So we need to understand that nutrition, if we hinge or use it as our main anchor in terms of controlling our production within a road runner setup, then it means it can help us to cut costs. So a well-bred road runner or indigenous bed will be healthy. It will cut on medications to do with treatments. It also means if you have better control on the amount of feed that you are going to give, then you can better price, meaning there are no losses as there are disparities on the price that is being charged versus the price that's being charged for the bed versus the amount of feed that was injected into feeding the road runners. So many farmers, they fail to link those two. At the end of the time, the end of the production cycle, they end up having issues to do with pricing and more so getting into losses. And you can imagine one thing that is quite disheartening when it comes to nutrition. You can see that with these indigenous beds, on average, most of the time, we're talking of around 24 weeks, 18 weeks, where they can get into the market, whether they are breeders, whether they are going for meat, etc. So with all these issues, you will find that if you are going to check in with most rural folks or other people who get into this business without knowing, they end up rearing their road runners up to 8 to 12 months. And you can imagine it's a very, very long time, such that the business, by the end of the day, it becomes meaningless. you have a lot of questions, as I said earlier on, that you fail to understand, and at the end of the day, you end up leaving business. So we need to really understand that nutrition is very important. We also need to understand that the moment we have better control of our nutrition, what we are giving our birds, understanding and knowing what they want at a particular stage, then we can improve survival rate of the chicks and also of the older birds, and also enhance on the performance measures in terms of production of eggs and also how fertile they are. So in terms of survival rate, we can have, if we're going to talk of survival rate, we can have, I've placed it at around above 50%, but to optimistic team, you find that we're talking of all the way up to around 80%, if not more. So basically, when it comes to nutrition, there is need to understand that we like it or don't. When we face reality in terms of the space limitations, I'll give you an example so that it really makes sense to you. Imagine if we are going to say we're going to keep our birds on free range, it means we are talking of roughly a square meter per bird. And imagine a farmer with 100 birds. So we are talking of about 100 square meters. So when I'm talking of this particular stocking density on free range, then I'm specifically zeroing on a particular land or piece of land which has juicy insects, worms, grasshoppers, and also good forage. I'm not just talking of bare soil where you are saying, well, they are just going to wallow in the mud and try to search for something. At least they should search for something and then find it. But you find that a lot of farmers may not have this particular kind of space, which means at one point in time, it's either you need to supplement and support Mother Earth with forage or support the birds with also commercial feeds. So by end of the day, as we look at nutrition, it helps us to synchronize all the management and marketing activities. Can we get to the next slide? Right. So back to my story, I still believe and I'm still convinced that the solution to all these problems is nutrition. At Profits, we have a roadrunner poultry feed, which I've tried to make a display here on this particular presentation so that you can be in a position to visualize, appreciate, see it, and know that it exists in this particular form. So we have a Profits roadrunner 1 starter mesh, which is a feed which we can give to our day-old chicks until from day-old until they get to around 400 grams in terms of their weight. And then when they get to that particular stage, we understand now their nutritional demands, they will twist a bit or they will change, such that you would need now to engage the roadrunner 2, which is a grower finisher mesh, which you are supposed to give from around that 400 grams, so until the birds come into lay. So from that juncture onwards, whether you would love to continue with the birds for producing eggs, for hatching or for table eggs, you would really need a roadrunner breeder layer mesh. That is from lay until you cull the birds. So it's quite key to really understand that we are not saying these feeds you are going to give the birds strictly only these feeds, but we are saying they can come in handy as a supplement. They can come in handy. If you don't have the space, then it means you have got to rely more on the commercial feeds and also supplement the forages or vice versa, so that you keep the nutritional balance of your birds. So you need to really understand that this starter mesh, the roadrunner 1 starter mesh, which is given from day old until the birds they are around 400 grams, it is given ad lib. So there's no feed restriction. Mind you, these birds, they take what they want, what they need. They are not like broilers, so that they take the feed to balloon, which is the same with the grower finisher mesh, which needs to be taken from 400 grams until they get to lay. So it's only on the breeder layer mesh that would recommend an average around 110 grams per bird per day. Those are the average amounts or figures that you can use when you are doing any budgeting purposes, for budgeting purposes. So you really need to understand that the breeder layer mesh is given around 110 grams per bed a day, and then the starter mesh and the grower finisher mesh are given a ad lib, which means the best they need to take what they really want and need. Can we get to the next slide? So our take-home message as we round up on nutrition, we need to really understand that there's need for using feed from a reputable supplier. For example, Profits, Pro Farmer Stores. These are some of the reputable suppliers that you can find when you have confidence and know the feed that performs. And also in terms of the Profits package, we have this 3-phase roadrunner feed that I have been explaining to you at your disposal. We have it in 3 phases, which you can harness at any particular stage, which means at the roadrunner 1 or roadrunner 2 stage, or at the 3rd roadrunner breeder layer phase, or you can just use the whole phases depending on the number of age groups or different stages of production you are at. So when the right feed is given, by the end of the day, you know you have a better, a healthy bed for better profits. So as I also round out, we need to understand that on feed storage, ensure your feed is off the ground, away from the walls, in a leak-proof room, and under lock and key. This prevents damage of your feed, theft, or damage from termites, molds, and also it allows you to have a better chance of getting to inspect the feed now and then, so that you get to monitor. Another thing that I have also not added there is you need to continuously have rat traps or traps, or we have rodent control within your storerooms or within your facilities where you will be doing your roadrunner production. Can we get to the next slide? So, well, thank you very much. Please, farmers, we need to understand that you never or should never count profits before learning how to make them. Continue to ask us as profits, then we can walk the journey together. Thank you very much for the time and attention, ladies and gentlemen. I thank you. This is the end of my presentation. We can get to the next slide so that also people can also get some of the information there. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Doc, for that presentation. So just as we said before, if you can post your questions into the chat platform, and then we are going to find some time to go through the questions from addressed to the different presenters. So before we do that, I just want to double check Mr. Nema, Nomo Nema, if I know you had touched on some gross margins to do with the laying and for egg production, and then also for producing some birds for meat. So maybe if you are able, you can just give us an overview, once again, maybe very quickly, of what gross margins farmers can expect in terms of so egg production, if they're producing road runners for egg production, if they're producing for meat, if they are also doing hatcheries. If you are able to just give us maybe in like 5 minutes, and then we'll go into our question and answer.
Thank you so much, Belinda. Right now I'm in the office, but forget my life is just actually something else. On the egg production side, I think let me just share on the egg production side, depending also on the breed. For example, I just want to advise farmers that like one factor to consider is on the type of breed. With blacker scallop eggs, it's purely a pure breed egg, is a crate of fertile eggs going to go for $10 per crate. So like I was indicating that if you pick, say, 80 out of 80 beds out of 100, normally I would advise farmers to start with 120 in anticipation that you factor mortality as well as the cock to hen ratio. So normally with black slope, based on 85% egg production, you are likely to pick, on average, you're likely to pick 60 eggs per day, just on average, which is your 2 crates per day, times 7 days. Normally, fetal eggs are supposed to be put in the incubator or hatchery within 7 days, which is your 14 crates. So 14 crates times 30 eggs, that's your 14 by 30. Let me just do the simple mathematical calculation. But now, since we are talking of breeding for fetal eggs, which is your 14 crates times $10, which is $140 per week. So per week, if you subtract your feed cost, which is $21, a farmer is left with $119 per week. 119 times 4, which is per month, that's around $500 just to, on average, which is $500 per month. So if you you factor in other costs, for example, your labor as well as vaccines and oil, on average you'll be getting around $300 just from one breed, which is your black castor. This is $300 net in terms of just rearing livestock, which is your poultry. Remember, right now, the civil servant is earning around $25. A farmer is getting $300 in a month. Then there's also another breed, which is so lucrative, which I just want to advise farmers. For example, the light Sussex. The light Sussex is actually is proven actually in the market to be one of the most expensive breeds, as well as one of the most productive breeds, as well as the Jess Giant, Buffalo Orpington. So a day old or a fetal egg for light Sussex is going for $50 per crate. So look, we have got your 100 beds, which is for the cocks. Then you are picking two crates per day, which is your 14 crates per week times $50, right? So just simple mathematics, which is 14 crates by 50, we get $700 per week times 5, which is 3,500. I will not give you in terms of figures, but what I want to tell you is Nema chickens just this year alone, actually on average would get around $10,000 per month, just from roadrunner. Because we have got different breeds. For example, we have got Bushwood, we've got Black Astrope, we've got Light Sussex, we've got Buffalo Orpington. So on each business unit, actually we have named this business unit because we are using actually pens, like we separate our breeds because we're into breeding. So each breed, we have got records and reports for each particular breed. So I'm saying a farmer, it's time we take this indigenous business seriously. For me, this is my life. And as a company, we are moving from strength to strength. Right now, we have managed even to secure a plot. I will not tell in terms of figures, and also we've managed also to buy some trucks specifically for the business through roadrunner business. So in terms of the egg production, it's more lucrative than the line. And when it comes also to breeding of day-old chicks, for example, your light Sussex, whatever profits I have mentioned, like 1,300 US per month for Black Astrope, with light Sussex, you multiply by 4. So if you multiply by 4, then you'll be getting around $4,900 just from one breed. So try it, taste it. I'm saying with the Nema chickens, if you have got pure breeds, for example, if you buy your breed from us, we are assured of market because we'll be buying your breeds. Right now, we are doing export market to Malawi. We've exported to Sierra Leone. We have exported to Zambia, Botswana, Namibia, so forth. Right now, we've got various NGOs. We have put their budgets for 2021. They are looking between 10,000 to 15,000 point of lay. So we are saying the market is already there, but what is needed is the production. Sorry, Belinda, I think my time is up, but whenever you feel I need to elaborate, I'm ready.
Okay.
to elaborate further. Thank you.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Okay, so I think now we're going to do a health presentation by Profit. Or maybe we'll just give them 5 minutes to prepare whilst I go through questions and answers. Okay, so we're going to just, if our presenters can just get ready. I'm sorry, my son also wants to learn about chickens. So just please bear with me. So I will start with some interesting questions, right? So Chisho L says, Mr. Nema, is the market all about fertile eggs and day-old chicks? Do we also have a market for the consumption of meat? So I know you touched on it before, but if you could just elaborate for our audience.
Okay, thank you, Belinda, for that. What I can say to you is that there's serious market for meat. Right now, if you go to Bon Marché, Pick and Pay, which is our supermarkets right now, they are buying actually this indigenous chicken $5 per kg. If you like now, if you travel to drive to Avondale, Bon Marché, Eastleigh right now, you see these are sold at around $8 per kg, which entails like if you breed like a Sasso or a Croiler, normally it's 8 weeks with Sasso. If you breed it well and give it the right appropriate feed, it hits about 3.2 kgs in terms of light weight. So actually there's ready market, but the challenge is right now the number of kgs which are needed per particular order is around 10 tons per month. So we don't have checkers, we don't have farmers who are able to supply, because normally what is lucrative right now at the moment, we have to satisfy the issue of day-old chicks breeding. So we are still in the breeding phase. For example, if a supermarket or a supplier approaches me to sell them for meat, I can't release my birds for meat because I'm making money through breeding of day-old chicks and also fertilized eggs. Because the moment I release this for say $10 or $12 per bed, then which means I need another 5 to 6 months to breed actually other beds, so that I compensate for my breeding stock. So I can't release my breeding stock because once I've attained the breeding age from say 16 to 18 weeks, I make money over 2 years. Then that I can only dispose them after 2 years. So there is a ready market, but what is there is that there are no checkers. I will share with you maybe various correspondence with other maybe big clients who want, like I've said right now, there's an NGO who are in need of 10,000 point of layers, and their point of layers starting from 14 weeks onwards, and they are taking at $10 per bed. But right now, we tried the market, we tried from our farmers, if we can raise the 10,000, we only managed to raise 1.2. So I'm saying the market is there, but farmers are not ready to release because they have not yet satisfied the issue of supplying day-old chicks as well as fertile eggs. So we are saying, come on farmers, the market is there. What is needed is for us to go on the ground and breed these birds. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. Our next question is from Marvelous Guanyanya, who is saying, is it correct to say that small grains promote egg laying in roadrunners? Maybe Mr. Doctor could take that question. Dr. Garkai, can you take that question?
Sorry, can you please come again?
Is it correct to say that small grains promote egg laying in roadrunners?
Right. Basically, what happens now, depending on the combination of the grains that are being used, it's a yes and a no situation. So usually, what we would really encourage is a balanced nutrition. Because sometimes when we are more inclined only on a particular type of feed, especially with the grains, not individually, they won't have the adequate nutrition. But then when the birds are on free range, the advantage is the birds, they balance their nutrition when they search for other items within the vegetation or within the soil. But then if they are strictly under 4 walls within a house and they're being reared, then it can become a challenge there. So I would really say you may supplement with those grains singly or in combination, but the combination of grains can be a bit better because you have a better nutrition versus just supplying only one grain feed to the birds. So I think that's the situation in that respect.
All right, thank you very much for that, Doc. Somebody was asking for Mr. Nema's contact details, and they are on the chat platform. I think he's put them there. So 0772 899862 or 0715284837, or the office number is 0786 452-809. Somebody else was asking where they can register themselves as a farmer. I think this is to be a part of the association. So number 4 Plymouth Road in Southerton, opposite NMB Bank at Wallace Laboratories. I'm just looking for more questions here. Mepo Yemudanga says, what's the process to start a hatchery and what are the costs looking like at a startup and running for 100 birds? So the question, I think, is if they want to start a hatchery with 100 birds, what do the costs, the startup costs look like? I'm not sure who would be able to answer that. Maybe Mr. Nema. If you're able to, if you have any idea of how to answer that.
Okay, thank you, Belinda. Let me attempt to take that question. Actually, boss, I'm running a successful hatcheries. We have got a capacity of 35,000 egg capacity. Normally, it depends with the size of the farmer, but I would advise if you want to start a lucrative business, especially on the hatching services, you need to at least a minimum of 5,280 egg capacity incubator. I would advise you, it depends with in terms of securing the incubator. You can either try SureH in South Africa, or you can try from China. Normally in China, the cost is quite reasonable. For example, 5,280, you can get it around 1,750. Then also including VAT and customs, you can at least get it around 2.3 CFI Harare. Then when it's in terms of registration, you need to register your hatchery with the Department of Livestock. What they do is they will come at your site and inspect the issue of biosecurity, and also in terms of your staff, and also in terms of your registration with Zimra, as well as the company's actual deeds. Then once it's there, you fill in the appropriate forms, and also it goes through the Office of the President, through AMA, and also through EMA for certification. Then you are given a certificate to register as to operate as a breeder or a hatchery. Then also, if you are to run, say, to start with the 100 chicks, in terms of the cost of buying chicks is $1 per chick, which is $100 in terms of. Then also on the feed cost, normally 0 to 4 weeks is ad-lib feeding, which is unlimited feeding. Like what the presenter from Profits, they said they've got a schedule for the feeding program from 4 to 5 weeks. Normally chicks, they eat around 5 grams a day, which means for a number of 100 is 5 kg per day. Then from 5 to 6 is also 6 kg up to point of lay. I will send actually part of my presentation, which I normally do in terms of the feeding program, and also the associated cost for 100 days up to point of lay. But if you look at the returns, it's more lucrative to do breeding, which is supply day-old chicks or fertilized eggs. Thank you so much. I think I've tried to attempt to answer the question.
All right, thank you very much for that. So another question, somebody saying to Mr. Nema again, do you do any training of new staff, and I would assume also for new farmers?
Thank you, Belinda. Actually, at Nema Chickens and the HRS, we conduct training every fortnight, normally every 2 weeks. For example, our last training was on the 12th of December. We conduct training from 8:30 to 4 p.m. at our HRE, and also we provide lunch, definitely our roadrunner meal. That would be the menu. It's either salads or rice, but we conduct these trainings only $10 per delegate, inclusive of lunch, meal. So our next training is in 2 weeks. Check, follow our Facebook page. I've already provided our contact detail as well as our link for the Facebook page where we post our training program. Thank you.
Okay. Before you go, Mr. Nema, when will your next training be? Just so that people can get ready. Nema $10 hour.
Thank you. Belinda, for our calendar this month, you know, is we are going towards festive season. So for December, we have already put it out. So our next training is early January, which is the first Saturday of January. That will be our training for 2021. But we'll be posting everything on our Facebook page. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, and then we are going to ask Pro-Feeds to do a presentation on poultry health. So they're just going to take a few minutes to talk to us about poultry health. Initially, Fivet was going to do that presentation, but they are unable to attend. So Pro-Feeds, Dr. Maruti is going to take that. So he's just going to do a few minutes just to talk to us about poultry health. And then if any more questions come through, we'll tackle those as well.
Well, thank you very much, Belinda. On this one, I'll just talk on it. It's unfortunate I couldn't find a specific roadrunner the strict sense in terms of the health, but I'm sure we can always make follow-up questions in the event that we have missed one or two things. So basically, in terms of poultry health, there is nothing that supersedes good husbandry when it comes to rearing poultry. So the best medicine for everything, for road runners, if I'm saying it right, it's to do with good husbandry. So when I'm talking of good husbandry, I will highlight a few areas where I know that's where our farmers usually drop the ball. So in terms of husbandry, we need to understand that as farmers, the moment you are going to buy chicks from Mr. Nema or from Nema Chickens or from any other roadrunner producer or producing firm, what you need to really understand is those chicks, they have or they had a mother, right? But that mother is no longer there, and then you, because you took them, you are getting into the place of the mother hen. So it is quite key that you make sure that you place good brooding conditions for the chicks. So when I'm talking of brooding conditions for the chicks, I'm talking of adequate heat, adequate spacing, adequate equipment, adequate containers for the first at least 3 to 5 weeks of placement. Most farmers, they make an assumption that, well, fine, we have our road runners at Kumusha, our rural areas, and with these road runners, they just survive even if we are going to place them. So it's quite key that you make sure that the chicks, they have, they are having what you are saying, they are having good temperatures within their houses, so that they can perform better in terms of what they will be doing in terms of growth. So a well-brooded house or chicks, if they're well-brooded, then it will also improve the livability of the pets. So this is an area where most farmers, they take for granted, especially on the heating. We really need good heaters here, and we really need farmers that use the chick behavior as their main guide in terms of adjusting their brooder houses. So there is no way you are going to buy or purchase chicks and then release them into the free range without taking care of them, providing them feed, providing them warmth, providing them good housing conditions. Because this is the work that mother hen was supposed to have done, but because you took advantage of chicks, then you need to make sure you look after them well. Right, and then the other issue that I am now looking at is, now that you have the chicks and they are well reared and they are now growing out. So in the grow out period or in the rearing period, we have a lot of challenges in terms of uniformity. We have noted or noticed that many farmers, they have chicks or they have birds that are of different sizes that are in one pen. Even sometimes if they are of the same age, then this presents a lot of challenges. That is the reason why you get to see that the smaller chicks, they take a long time to grow. It's because they are being out-competed by the stronger birds or the larger birds. So we really need to make sure that we put similar sized birds within a particular unit. This would enhance the performance of the birds, since we have leveled out performance within the houses. So this is one area where farmers can actually take advantage of and ensure that they won't have a sickly flock. Because if you are going to take to overlook this issue to do with uniformity, you end up having birds that have a standard growth, birds that will have high mortality, and also issues with feather pecking. So farmers, they need to understand that there is no bird that will be hedged and have a thought of saying, I need to continuously peck my bedmate, which is the next bed. So whenever we see within the house that some birds, they are having a lot of feather damage, then a bell should ring in our minds that there is something that is terribly wrong, and we need to seek out to investigate and correct that problem. So feather pecking is not normal, it's never normal, it never will be. We need to really understand the causes, what will be there, but most of the time it's due to stress. There will be a stressing factor, which may be high stocking density, it may be due to high temperatures, which may be a lack of feed, which may be the different sizes within the house. So we need really to make sure we observe our flocks and really correct some of these issues before they go out of hand. Because if the pecking goes beyond the feathers, then it's now digging into the skin, and that's when we have or we pick birds that do not have intestines, or birds that have part of their flesh eaten by the other flockmates. And then the other thing that I'm going to zero on under the topic of husbandry is to do with mortality. So we need really to be rest assured that mortality, yes, we know it's a living product, it will die. But then when the numbers go out of hand, or when we see that our targets are going off the line, then we really need to investigate. And people whom are best or well suited to help you understand the mortality patterns of your flocks are the nearest vet centers that are within your space. So in the event that you can't pick those, it's still okay. You can visit our Profits or Pro Farmer stores. They can always be of great assistance, because if for any reason you are going to purchase any of our Profits products, we always make follow-up and also try to ensure that they perform and also your flocks perform. So please ensure that you keep your records, and then ensure that you always report any mortality that is out of hand, so that you get assistance before things get worse. And then the second main topic that I'm going to talk of is to talk of the common diseases that we mostly experience or not in the road runners. So in the road runners, the most common diseases are to do with fowl pox. I'm sure we have seen that the birds, especially during this time or the hot, wet season, we mostly have birds that have sort of pimples or scabs at the edges of the mouth, at the edges of the ears, at the edges of the eyes, and also at the combs, wattles, and any other unfeathered areas of the body. So those issues, they are mostly to do with fowlpox, and fowlpox is a viral infection. Basically, it has no treatment, but however, it cannot be passed from bed to bed. That is from bed A to the next bed. It's not passed that way. But what we need to really understand is how we can break the cycle of fowlpox. So the best way to counter fowlpox is to ensure that around the houses where you house your birds, right? Whether it's from during the day and night or only by night, we need to ensure that we remove all the green grass or vegetation from the perimeters. At least we're talking for a meter clearance around the houses so that we clear those areas of vegetation, because we have mosquitoes and other biting insects hiding in these areas. This is how we get to have a transmission of fowlpox. So if a mosquito immediately bites a bird which is infected with fowlpox, then transfers it to the next bird, then by the end of the day, we're going to have the transfer of fowlpox infection and the whole flock getting to decimated. So in terms of mortality, usually we have a lot of mortality, high mortality, especially on the small flocks, but sometimes 20–30% can be experienced depending on the aggression of the type of virus, fowlpox virus that would have affected your flocks. And also there's another issue to do with infectious coryza. That with infectious coryza, we are going to have with infectious coryza, so that you'll be familiar. Infectious coryza, this is an infection where we have swellings of the eyes, and sometimes when we try to squeeze on the eyes, we get to have some whitish stuff coming out from the eyes. So when it starts, it's like frothing from the eyes, discharges from the eyes and nose, and then also to have that whitish gaseous material from the eyes. So the moment we note that, then we know we are dealing with infectious coryza. So with infectious coryza, what's key here is you need really to understand that infectious coryza is a bacterial infection. Mostly its persistence is it's due to us having different flocks of different ages or sizes. So the moment we are going to have flocks of different ages and sizes at one premise, especially with cross proximity, and our biosecurity is lagging, then we are going to have a perpetuation of infectious coryza from one flock to the next. So we really need to up our biosecurity and ensure we always keep smaller flocks on their side and then larger flocks on their own. So basically, you need to be moving from the smaller flocks to the larger flocks, not vice versa. We should never start our feeding from the larger flocks and then backwards to the younger flocks, because there's a risk of transferring this particular disease from the older flocks to the young flocks. And then another disease also under the heading of common diseases to do with Newcastle disease. Newcastle disease, it's a viral infection, and with Newcastle disease, mostly depending on the virus, we have a lot of high mortality, I would say. This is the easiest way of trying to identify it. We have stargazing, twisted necks, inappetence, and high mortality. This is how it's mostly spreads. But then with this one, it's quite difficult, especially under free range poultry farmers, to control, because it can be spread by flocks from our neighbors, or it can be spread by any birds that are flying past over our facilities, if they drop any dropping, by the end of the day, we can also have a Newcastle infection. That is if that bird is harboring the virus. But another way of trying to counter this particular virus is to do with upping our biosecurity and also in terms of vaccination. And the last disease that I'll talk of is also coccidiosis. Coccidiosis, we are seeing it, it's on the rise, especially on roadrunners. It was something that was never common. Why? Because roadrunners, they always on free range, getting to different places, and there was no challenge. So by the end of the day, what you notice is, as long as you are going to overcrowd or crowd your road runners, and when the conditions are going to allow litter or bedding within the area where they are being kept, if areas are going to continuously be wet, then we are going to have maturation of the parasites that cause coccidiosis and hence that disease. So basically, there is no poultry site that doesn't have parasites that cause coccidiosis, but it's on how we manage our different flocks that end up causing now issues to do with coccidiosis. So we need basically to ensure that we keep the flow areas, the litter, or areas where our road runners stay a bit dry, so that we do not promote maturation. By maturation, I'm just saying this is whereby the parasites become effective because of the conditions that you would have provided them. So they become infective, especially if the conditions become moist, and then they can cause disease. And another way of also countering issues to do with coccidiosis is also to try to feed your road runners the profits, road runner machines that I'm talking about. They also have a coccidiostat, and this can also help protect your flocks. And just to sum up all these issues that I've been highlighting, so the take-home message is, the first thing, there is no medicine that supersedes good husbandry to any poultry farmer. And then the second thing is, with all diseases, the common diseases that we face, we can always have them being countered by good husbandry. I think you have seen that I didn't dwell much on medications, what you use, this medication, that medication, because I know sometimes farmers, they tend to take advantage of medications and then ignore the husband. But there is no medication, again, which will work if we do not get it right in terms of supporting the medication with good husbandry. And then the last thing, which is the best take-home message, I know sometimes we may have had 1 or 2 points skip us, but communication is always key. Always try to seek the nearest vet facility for advice if you think you've gone wrong. If there's no other farmer who's also besides who can also help in advice, you can always visit our Profits Pro Farmer centers, or even take note of the call center numbers that I have also provided. Can also be of assistance anytime and help you grow the road runners to the best levels we can. Many thanks.
Okay, thank you so much, Doc, for your presentation. So a number of people have been asking for the numbers for Dr. Maruti and also Normal Nema. If you look in the chat area, the numbers have been posted there. So I will take this time now to just ask one last question from Mayor Paul. Says, when you say day old and young mixing, what's the when you say old and young mixing, I think this is to talk, what's the optimum age difference to stock in the same fowl run? We have a flock that has a variation in age of about 1 to 2 weeks. Is that okay, or should it be split?
Okay, thank you very much, Belinda. When you are talking of age difference variation, most of the time 1 to 2 week age difference is not very bad. It's fairly good. I think it's okay. But then now, if we go beyond that, the moment we get to 4 weeks age difference, then the disparity becomes too real, and then we end up having issues. So I think that 1 to 2 weeks is not very bad. It's okay.
Okay. All right, that's fine. So I think now I will hand over to, there's a question from Tawanda who says, can we have contacts for the reputable and experienced vets in the poultry sector?
All right, off-air, then that will be very difficult for me to quite a point, and sometimes it would also require their input in terms of interest of me posting their contact here. But my thought process is to the centers that I have been referring you, also to the nearest vet facilities. When I'm saying vet facilities, I'm saying to any vet shop that's near you. I'm saying to the government departments that are near you. And all those people, they also have the various experience, visit experience, that they can redirect you in the event that they see that whatever they are facing or whatever you are trying to put across, they can't deal with it. They can always give you referrals to those areas. So I can't really say I know everyone who's across the country, and in their terms of in field. Saying it's unfortunate I can't really know every port of vet who's across the country, but I'm sure all those centers that I have highlighted, they are good. They are referral points. They are starting point, and so that you can get to. If they can't deal with the situation, usually they have their referrals and they can advise accordingly.
Okay, all right, that's fine. Thank you very much. I'll now hand over to Agribusiness Media. Before I do that, I just want to thank all the presenters for the information that they've shared. Rollins Coffee is going to take the last part of this. Just a reminder as well that this presentation, this webinar is being hosted by Agribusiness Media through this channel, which is their Agribusiness TV. My name is Belinda from Civio Institute. We are helping Agribusiness Media as a technical partner. And Civio Institute, I'll post our link just now if you want to find out more about who we are. Rollins, you can go for it.
Thank you, Belinda. Many thanks for the presentations. And thanks for coordinating the event, and many thanks to Civio Institute for the support. It was a very good webinar. It went very well. So I'd like to thank our presenters, Tamari Mhlanga from POSB. Thank you for your presentation. It was very detailed on the opportunities and the factors farmers should consider when applying for financing. Then Mr. Nema from Nema Chicks or Nema Chickens, thank you for your contribution on the gross margins, on the market, and for the information that you have shared with the audience. Then Dr. Marutsi, we really appreciate your contribution on the nutrition side and also on the health side. We know we should have informed you in advance, but you did very well to prepare on a very short notice. So thank you very much. And to the farmers who joined the webinar, we really appreciate. And these are weekly webinars, so be sure to tune in next or to join in on our next webinar. We hope it will be interesting and as educative as this webinar was. So we'll post a link to our WhatsApp groups with a number of WhatsApp groups where we discuss different aspects of the business of farming. So feel free, if you have questions, we'll then direct to the responsible presenters. They can respond to you. Then we'll also share the presentations and we'll upload actually on YouTube with a YouTube channel, Agribusiness TV ZW, and also on our website there's a section there for the TV. Let me just try and share a screen here so that you'll be able to see it. Okay, So there you'll see a number of videos. These are very educative videos. So we then post our webinar recordings under that page as well. So it's agribusiness.co.zw, then /TV. So every recording there, every video, every webinar is shared on that platform. Then also on our YouTube channel, that's Agribusiness TV. And be sure to follow us on Twitter as well. That's Agribusiness ZW. So the magazine, the next issue of the magazine is out by end of day today. So be sure to subscribe to receive it. It's free. So thank you very much, everyone, for this successful webinar. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.